Well, someone who's been watching recent developments from afar is Richard Calland, a constitutional law professor with UCT. He's currently in Berlin. He's also the author of Anatomy of South Africa and the Zuma Years. Richard, thank you very much for joining us. Let's just look first at the arrest linked to corruption and state capture. 7 people due in court in Bloemfontein tomorrow. And, you know, the Hawks seem really sure that not only have they learned from past mistakes, where the Estina dairy farm case fell apart, but they've really got their ducks in a row. Do you think that we are seeing the beginnings of a turning of the tide against state capture in South Africa?
I think there's signs of to justifying that view, yes. I think we can feel encouraged that the National Prosecuting Authority and its various constituent agencies is now reaching the point where it has the capacity to investigate and to prosecute quite complex crimes, and that they have slowly managed to rid themselves of the hangover of the Zuma years, which meant that the corridors of those institutions were still infiltrated by people who were not there to serve the public interest or the Constitution, but to serve narrow factional or corrupt interests within the Zuma kind of network. Now, those days may be behind us. Of course, we have to see how these prosecutions unfold, Sally. They need to succeed. They need to be prosecuted successfully and effectively in court, and they have to reach the standard of proof required by criminal law. But after a long wait, which has really tested a lot of people's patience, we seem to be at a point now where significant people are being brought to the court and where accountability is finally becoming exercised.
Vincent Smith, former ANC MP, was in court today. He says he's absolutely innocent of corruption charges. You once described him as the, and I'll quote, shark-eyed filibuster supreme who you say suffocated Parliament's arms deal inquiry. So I'm guessing you have quite a strong view on Vincent Smith. Did his arrest surprise you?
Well, I shouldn't answer that question because I think every individual under a rule of law is entitled to be regarded as innocent until proven guilty in court. What I will say, having watched his career over a long period of time, 20 years in fact, in Parliament, is that it's been an up and down career. I think that the single unifying thread of his career has been that he's been a very loyal member of the ANC. He served whoever happened to be kind of in power at the time. So in recent times, in fact, he was an admirably capable and fair-minded chair of a special committee to see through a very important piece of legislation around party funding, bringing transparency, ironically, into political donations. But back 20 years ago, he played a very different role. Suffocating was the word I used, as you said. The ability of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts to really investigate the arms deal as it was then known. So I think he tends to serve the prevailing power elite at that particular time, and it may be that that has got him into trouble.
Well, it certainly seems, just from doing a little bit of reading, the SIU seems to be building a case that Vincent Smith didn't raise concerns about Bosasa or take forward concerns by other committee members when he was chairing the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services. If this is true, and of course this still has to be proven, it hits at the heart of what Parliament is meant to stop and see over, and surely would be an example of exactly how bad the rot is.
Well, there's 2 points to be made there, Sally. First of all, you're absolutely right. The long and very detailed indictment that has been brought to bear against Mr. Smith and others tries to prove the case, join the dots, as you say, that his role in Parliament, although it might have seemed quite a modest role at the time, was used by him, deployed by him, to influence the government, to influence certain decisions, or to not take decisions and not exercise appropriate oversight in order to, in effect, turn a blind institutional eye to certain things that shouldn't have happened. Now, they've got to prove that. They've got to not only join the dots on a piece of paper, but they've got to convince a court and a judge of that. But it really goes to a very important other consideration relating to state capture, which was the failure of Parliament to exercise sufficient oversight. And one of the reasons why an institution fails is when individuals within it who have a constitutional role choose not to play that role and in fact are serving other masters and mistresses.
If we look at state capture, you know, it's obviously the Hawks have been investigating corruption allegations, but we are also seeing that they seem to be allowing those who are later arrested to have their day at the State Capture Commission. And it's quite interesting that former President Jacob Zuma is now accusing Zondo of being biased. He wants him to recuse himself. He says he's obsessed with Jacob Zuma and he's holding a personal grudge. Now, I know that you've written a book on Jacob Zuma, so what do you make of this latest move from the former president?
Well, to be quite frank with you, Sally, it's straight out of his playbook, and his playbook is to obfuscate, to distract, and to use fake news to try and distract a process from fulfilling its mandate. You know, the irony of this, of course, is that he appointed Raymond Zondo twice to significant positions. First, to be the Deputy Chief Justice. Second, to head the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. On neither occasion did Mr. Zuma raise any of the objections that his foundation has now raised on his behalf. So I think one needs to treat those allegations, those complaints that he now raises, with the utter contempt that they deserve, frankly. And I expect the Commission will do the same.
And Richard, you've been stuck in Berlin during the lockdown. You know that our borders are now open. When are you coming home?
It's very kind of you, Sally. I hope to come home as soon as possible. I really do. I miss home and South Africa enormously. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks to return home. Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much. Richard Calland, a constitutional law professor with UCT, currently in Berlin.